The monkey's fist knot. At first glance, you might think, where would I even use this thing? So before we go through step by step exactly how to tie it, let's go through where to use it, both in the outdoors and at home. If you've ever tried to throw a rope over a tree branch, it could be really frustrating. Oftentimes there's not enough weight on the other side to let that rope slide down. So you end up jumping around like this trying to get it. And then with a thin rope, there's just not enough weight to throw it up in the first place. So a monkey's fist is attached to the end, giving it a great weight to throw and come down the other side easily, which was the primary reason it was invented. You could also just tie it right to your main rope and throw the whole thing over. And if you ever wondered what knot to tie around a rock, this is the proper knot to use. Now there could be a number of reasons for doing this. It really comes in handy if you do any bushcraft, like in this build here, or in survival, like in this video here. I add weight to my fishing line with small rocks. Now you could of course also use it for large rocks. Think counterweights here, or even a makeshift anchor for a canoe or boat. Either way, it's one of the best knots you could learn for bundling up stones and rocks. And even bigger objects like a basketball or soccer ball like this, which could be a really fun project to do with the kids, because of course it makes an awesome rope swing. And while this one only has 3 wraps, you could do even more wraps to cover the whole entire ball if you want. If you have a garage that you park your car inside, you could hang the monkey's fist there to line up the perfect parking job every time. And if you have pets at home, it could serve as a really fun toy for them, whether that's a tug-of-war toy, a fetch toy, or just a simple chew toy. And because it's rope, it's easy to sneak and hide a little treat in there for them. And along with decorative uses, the monkey's fist is actually one of the best lanyard knots you could use. During my career as a firefighter, for example, this was the best lanyard knot to hang out of your bunker pants pocket. The main advantage of it, along with being lightweight, is it won't snag on anything. And even if you're tangled up, you could reach down with a gloved hand to access that tool easily. And one of the other ways is using it as an impact tool. In a survival setting, that would mean wrapping a rock and probably breaking through ice. But historically, people have used this as a self-defense tool, which I'll touch on a little bit more at the end. But first, let's learn how to tie it. Now there are a number of different ways to show how to do this. Most of them use a jig to help and it makes it a lot better. I'll link this creator's video here so you have that as well. But what I'm going to show you is the easiest method of tying this just freehand, and it's what I use. Now if you're tying along with paracord, take about 4 feet and that should work well for this. So the first step is starting with one end of your rope and making an overhand knot here. Just a loop and pass the end through. Now you're going to pinch it in between your first and second finger and go around the back of your hand, and we're going to wrap 2.5 times from left to right. And by half, I mean just go halfway between your pinky and ring finger and pinch it there. And now turn the bundle 45 degrees so the opening faces you, and make sure that overhand knot is in the center. Now we perform our 3 horizontal wraps. And these are going to be stacked from bottom to top. Make sure the whole way through to maintain a firm grip, just so the whole thing doesn't come loose as you're wrapping. So when you finish that 3rd wrap, it's time to do one more set of 3. The monkey's fist should look like this at this point. Now it's easiest to take the free end of your rope at this part and thread it through that top hole away from you. Pull the line all the way through, and then we're going to take it and feed it back towards you through that bottom hole. Pull it all the way through again, and then we're just going to repeat that process. Through the top, pull the line through, and then back through the bottom towards you. So these wraps are going to be done left to right and a total of 3 times. You'll know when you've done enough because you should be able to count 3 lines on each side of this monkey fist. Now this isn't a technically easy knot to do, so if you're able to get it right the first time you try this, that's honestly amazing. It took me a number of times to first get this right, but once you do, you could whip this thing up pretty fast. Now if you find you're pulling through and there's a big twist in your line like this, just try to feed that through as best you can, then run your hand down the line to get out the twist. Now that your monkey fist is done, it'll sort of look like a loose blob. It's time to go back and find the very beginning. That's the end that leads towards the overhand knot in the middle. And once you find it, we're going to start from there and start tightening up the whole thing. So pull tension and then follow that piece, pulling and tightening up all the wraps behind it. Just keep following. It'll lead from the outside strand, and then you'll see it transform to the middle strand and then the end strand. After that, it'll make a sharp 90-degree turn, and just keep continuing. To get a good shape, your first tighten should be a little bit softer, and then you could go around a second time and make it really snug. Now, if you're tightening around itself, the 3-strand method should work, but if you want to tie around an object, you could do as many strands as you want. For example, something like a pool ball would take 10+ strands of a thin paracord to cover it completely. If you decide to cut the monkey fist off, so you could attach it to a thin rope whenever you want, the best way I've found is using the rolling hitch. wrap around and cross over itself diagonally twice, and now one wrap above and underneath itself, and that's it. It's similar to a taut line hitch, and it's useful for attaching a thinner rope to a thicker one, just like this. Now, just a word of caution, if tied with a weight inside for the purposes of self-defense, it could be classified as a slingshot, which may be illegal depending where you live. So I'm going to link a couple other resources here. There's this cool self-defense ninja video I saw, and other great channels that show different ways of tying this knot. I'm your friend DJ from the Bear Essentials, and thanks for stopping by.